Hey, how's it going? The last run didn't remove enough of my hairline, so here I am again. The Darkhand is a really cool, unique weapon in Dark Souls 1. It offers a ton of very useful and unique quirks that make it a super viable offhand weapon. For one, the most obvious and least useful ability, it can suck out the humanity of NPCs and players. This is great in PvE for maintaining chaos damage, increasing item find, and generally decreasing the amount of farming you have to do for covenants like Chaos Servants and the Dark Wraiths. In the left hand, it's a lot more useful. For one, it has a really cool looking shield. Despite the low stability, it has extremely consistent defense and is excellent for slow hitting bosses when you can't react quick enough to dodge. It can also parry in the left hand, which is universally useful and very appreciated. Now, you might have noticed I missed something about the Darkhand. Something very obvious, unfortunate, and the reason for today's video: the damage. This weapon, if you can call it that, only does 200 damage. Emphasis on only. It can't be upgraded and doesn't scale at all, meaning the first quarter of the game is just a cruise, but the last 3 quarters are slow, painful, and annoyingly difficult. It also has the range of a fist weapon, so some bosses will perfectly dodge the hit, no matter how hard you try. So, of course, in my quest to halve my life expectancy as soon as possible through toxic amounts of stress, I will be beating all of Dark Souls with the Darkhand. Let's get to it. While I make a suitably ugly character, I'll go over the rules. First of all, I can only deal damage with the Darkhand. Equipment and spells of all kind are allowed, but my damage has to only come from the Darkhand. I also will be prioritizing the whole Dark Wraith look, but if desperately needed, I will have to forego Fashion Souls for a fight or two. Second, every integral boss must be beaten before Gwyn. Third, no exploits. Let's get to it. First off, time for exploits. With a bit of magic, I get my Darkhand and make my way through. The damage is terrible, but the Asylum Demon is worse, and so goes down very quickly. Arriving at Firelink, things are a little different for this run. I can't upgrade my weapon this time, so instead of taking different paths with the Master Key for early materials, I'll just be doing the regular path. After giving Crestfallen and Petrus a kiss goodbye, I head up to the Aqueduct. I do way too much damage for any enemy to pose a threat, and just cruise through. I repair my Darkhands with the Undead Merchant, as for some reason they started off broken, then say goodbye to him once he isn't useful anymore. I then head straight up to the Taurus Demon. I absolutely obliterate his health bar, demolishing him in record time, before he puts me in a 2011 CSGO Flicks compilation. I head up again, slightly annoyed, before he 180s me again. I'm honestly surprised Moki hasn't covered his tap strafing yet. On the third try, he feels bad about embarrassing me, and takes one for the team. I have to say, not a good start to the run. Third try and Taurus Demon doesn't really fit in the same sentence for me, and it makes me kind of worried for later on. Solaire, with his joyous laughter, deep voice, and girthy Sunlight Straightsword, absolutely win me over. And after he gives me his helmet for safekeeping, I unlock the shortcut, then head to the church. I grab the key on the way after finding out the boar can actually come through the gate, then grab the Firelink elevator. After that, I absolutely thrash the entire population of the parish. I backhand every single inhabitant with pure relish. Then after dominating Lautrec, I convince him to meet me down in Blighttown. After reloading, I grabbed probably the most important ring for this playthrough, the, ring. Since I can't upgrade any of my stats, my leveling will be entirely focused into health and stamina, and as such, the hefty percentage-based boost from the ring will be extremely useful. With ring in hand, I guess literally, I head up to the gargoyles. I beat the veritable shit out of them. Again, the first chunk of the game is an absolute breeze, as 200 damage won't become something to scoff at for a good while. After backhanding the priest, since the only true god is the abyss, I ring the first bell. Time for the next part of my tedious journey. I demolish another Abyss Denier and head up to the Berg again. After embarrassing Havel with some very nerve-wracking parries, I grab the next super useful ring, the Havel ring, allowing me to create a very ugly but defensive armor combo. Next, I head up to Andre. Unfortunately for him, not only can he not upgrade my weapons, but he also doesn't reciprocate my affection. That means death.
Don't get yourself killed.
With the surprisingly cheap this time crest in my hands, I join the Forest Hunters, and after kicking away Shiva, I immediately betray them. Reloading nets me the Dark Wood Ring, the other cornerstone ring of this build. Understandably, the rest of the hunters are a little upset I murdered one of their buddies a nanosecond after joining, and after I apologize profusely, I head to Sif. Why am I at Sif way earlier than I should be? Well, the end goal of my build is locked behind him and 4 other blockades, and despite being ill-prepared in every possible way, my honor as a Dark Wraith means I really do have to beat up every dog I see. Sif is an interesting fight. My idiotic range means I need to be right up in his face to do anything, which actually benefits me greatly. I can dodge almost every sword swing, and if I react quick enough, I won't take damage from his get-off-me attacks. If being the key word. After dying on my first go, I aggressively pet Sif to death, then the butterfly as well because I don't like him. With the next chunk of my build looming on the horizon, I then head down to the lower berg. Unfortunately for Griggs, he has 0 value to me once I suck him dry, and so I introduce him to the back of my hand. They get along well. Next on my list is Capra, who I promptly obliterate. I then head down to my absolute favourite area in the game, the Humanity Farm. With nothing of value but my will to live hidden in the tunnels, I rush to the dragon. For the very first time in my life, unironically, I die to the gaping dragon. His tail completely slices through my health bar, and 3/4 stone armor, somehow. Okay, something really cool and awesome is that I rested only at Firelink Shrine under the impression I could just speed through, and then homeward back to save a ton of time. The awesome thing is now I have to run all the way back. After paying back the gaping dragon with interest, I am open to the next part of my build, awaiting me deep in Blighttown. After a really fun time being toxicked and beaten up by every enemy within 500 meters of me, I make it to Power Within. Or, well, kinda. I completely forgot how to get past this bug thing, so I do this instead. Finally, back at Firelink, I unlock the only damage boost I can realistically use for this build. The 40% damage boost is amazing, But the real killer thing is the stamina regen, allowing me to go absolutely ballistic with attacks, and roll away whenever I want, as you'll soon see. I then head down into the second coolest Lord Soul area. After Ingrid says something I don't really like, I grab the key, flood the city, get embarrassed by a fellow Darkwraith, then head down to fight the kings, way more unprepared than I should. Unsurprisingly, my damage is awful, as is my health, and I am obliterated. As much as I want the final piece of my build laying just beyond them, I resolve to come back later. I take my anger out on Pinwheel for the Rite of Kindling, then head down to Quelaag. I curb stomp her fairly hard. Despite my damage, I have high defense and a stupid amount of healing, which I end up not needing. I ring the bell, then ask to see the fair lady politely. Afterwards, I make my way to Sens. After conveniently losing the footage of my dying multiple times to the traps, I realize I forgot something while fighting the Iron Golem. Can you guess what it is? On my next try, he goes down easily, and I head up to the capital. Anor Londo is my next unwilling stop, but I realise soon that absolutely nothing here is a threat to me. I make my way through the painting room fairly easily. This guy somehow survives and lands at a spot I didn't even know had no death box, so I leave him be. I make my way into the cathedral without incident, then take out the biggest boys here, O and S. Oh my god, they get curb stomped so hard. My damage, while low, is consistent enough at stunning them that I embarrass them on my first try. After the last two goes around, this felt so good.
Audio Jungle.
I greet Guinevere, then with Lord Vessel in hand, head back to Firelink. Before I head down to try the kings again, I forcibly upgrade my Estus Flask. With high health, armor, and healing, I feel a lot better about the kings. Power Within helps me burst down the first king, but once it runs out, I'm at the mercy of RNG. I don't have enough stamina to do a ton of damage, then have time to roll, and this fight is a race against time. Once it runs out, I just kind of have to hope the kings don't use their grab or AoE, as it pretty much guarantees the next king will spawn. They let me get tantalizingly close on my first go, then true combo to cringe Pissboy shreds, just as I almost win. It's all good, I'll just run all the way back from Firelink to try again. This time I introduce them to these hands in a consensual, gentle way, without any sort of underlying vengeance-inspired motives. Again, after the past 2 runs, beating the Abyss Simps was a euphoric experience in so little attempts. With them down, I am greeted by the one true god, Karth. He mentions how supple I look in my armor, and I shyly say thank you. After asking me if I'm into Vor, which I definitely say no, I place the Lord Vessel. Then finally, with the humanity I had collected from different merchants, and from my old friends the rats in the depths, I finally collect the last piece of my build. Oh my god, I look so good. Time to destroy my self-confidence. First up, or well, technically second on my Lord hit list, is Seath. I'll speedrun this real quick. Elevator, death, prison, courtyard, clams, Seath, win. Most boring Lord in the most well-developed Soul Lord area, down. Next up is Nito. I give Patches a little love tap before he fucking sprints full speed up the ledge so he can kick me down. I get beaten up by this person I forgot the name of, then beat up her and her buddies. I make my way down to the bonfire before getting jump scared by the knight. What have I got? After getting the tiniest bit lost, I head to Nito. As you can imagine, I'm a little worried not bringing a divine weapon in, but it seems to be going okay. I have enough healing to outlast whatever the base game throws at me, and slowly whittle him down until he does this. After Nito just decides to DC from the fight when I was clearly going to win, I restart and angrily run back down to give him a dark hand sandwich. He goes down as easily as he should have the first time, which makes 3 Lord Souls down. It's that time again. I make my way down to the demon ruins, and after opening the shortcut, I grab the Firekeeper soul peacefully. I wonder if you can see the problem with my logic here. After that, I take out Neverending Splooge, then head towards the shortcut. Turns out, if you kill the lady, then it closes, but takes your humanity anyway. That would have been awesome to know. Looks like I actually have to fight the Izalith Gauntlet for once. After Fire Sage wastes my time, I head to the Centipede. In a very weak imitation of a functional boss, he bounces up and down, before finally letting my dark hands go where I want them to. You know the rest. Lava, tree root, demons, your mum, my goth wife, then the slide. Bed of Chaos goes down on the first try, which is kind of hilarious. That makes every single Lord Soul down, and every integral boss this side of the game down. Time to completely triple the difficulty. Now it's time for my favourite part of the DLC, the idiotic setup. Why there wasn't just a small alcove added in Sif's arena to house the portal in, and an actually interesting and lore-friendly spot for the locket to be placed in? I don't know, but I cry gently as I head to the Hydra. Want to know something super cool about this enemy? I have 0 damage, 0 range, and there is a giant dumbass pit of water in front of it that isn't very visible. I have a jolly good time, a quite splendid affair. You might even say a clutter of rambunctious shenanigans with this Hydra. The last head hangs over the water, which is hard enough to hit with a melee weapon normally. My weapon is the size of my middle finger, which is bent, blackened, and bruised from being overused at my several mistresses for not buying me the Gabriel body pillow. Anyways, I eventually get a lucky hit on the Hydra, and head over to the Golem, which I promptly ruthlessly attack. Afterwards, I head up to the archives for the last time and grab the locket. DLC time! Yay! The first roadblock to the end of the run is the Guardian. For once, it's a genuine challenge. Despite his low health, I do low enough damage to make it feel like a regular beefy boss. And with his damaging and wide moveset, it's decently challenging for once. My small range definitely doesn't mesh well with his tendency to dodge and fly around. While I die once, I simply overwhelm him with my massive healing ability, and move on to the rest of the DLC. After kindling the sanctuary for further use, I head into the forest. I get some sick early hits on Kalameet, decimating his health bar, and after saying hi to the Bloodborne reference, I head in to face Artorias. Artorias is as beefy, quick, and dangerous as ever. But I have a problem eerily similar to my sniper crossbow run. While I have a ton of health and can dodge really well, my attacks miss stupidly easily, and even when they don't, I do that much damage. That's with Power Within, a 40% boost by the way. Artorias only has so many attacks I can actually punish, as my small range necessitates attacking only when he has a massive recovery. Also, because I have to stick so ridiculously close, his moveset is changed a lot from my ranged playthroughs. He's much more likely to do both of his space-making attacks, his spin that forces me to roll away or take a ton of damage, or this extremely quick jump attack that almost always catches me by surprise. You couple this with very, very low reward for risky attacks, and you have the ultimate battle of attrition. I have a lot of tools for survival, especially the shield function of the Dark Hand, which is life-saving for preserving Estus. but with how long the fight takes, Artorias wears me down over time every time. In one attempt, he left me at 1 HP, just to randomly jump attack and crush my hopes before emoting on me. The biggest issue in this fight was my patience. I hate playing games like this slow. I always prefer high damage with the risk of being one-shotted to slowly whittling down a health bar while they whittle down mine. Since these attempts last well into the 10-minute range, I would get greedy or bored or both. Attack too much, get maybe 60 extra damage, and end up wasting 3 extra Estus. The other issue was power within. Unlike the 4 kings, I didn't need the extra stamina. I didn't get the chance to attack constantly, and the extra damage barely made a difference. Unfortunately, the health drain was just too large of an issue to ignore. So against my bored and annoyed impulses, I decided to shelve it for this battle. Finally, after hours of irritating attempts, I take on Artorias again. This time I make a conscious effort to be patient, wait out the right moments to heal, and damage him. I stick close to ensure I interrupt his buff, but watch out for the super fast jump attack that kept catching me. I try to use the running attack as much as I can, as it does slightly higher damage and slowly, very, very slowly, whittle Artorias down. After an excruciatingly long attempt, the Abyssal Knight falls to his own worst enemy, the King of the Dark Raids. Finally, I can move on to the much harder part of the DLC. With my levels pretty much sorted, I use the souls on some humanity to fully kindle the Sanctuary bonfire for later on. I pay my respects to Artorias, as despite us being mortal enemies, his fight, no matter how annoying, is always the most honest and fun in any playthrough. Then it's Township time. I grab the necessities and fist fight everyone. I mean everyone. No, literally everyone. I literally punch every single resident in the face till my fists have a permanent poison debuff from the snot flying out of every nose I punch in. It is so cathartic. After I wipe out the entire population of Ultrakil, introducing them to the only real abyss in these parts, I head down towards Manus's gaping chasm. Time for the real test of this awful build.
You never see it coming. You see that my mind is too fast for eyes. You're done there. But the time is hit you, you're not surprised.
Just off the bat, so we're on the same page, Manus does higher damage than Artorias, has higher health, is just as fast, and is quite literally the only boss in the game to have a move that can kill me instantly. Every other boss can whittle me down, but my armor and health can't fight off the Dark Bead. That's what Manus is, the ultimate roadblock. He has the highest health in the game, making my damage look even more cute and petite than the other bosses did. While his first phase isn't super difficult like Artorias, my awful range means I both miss attacks and have to stay glued to his side. This, of course, leads into the next issue, his wombo combo. This attack is predictable, but terrible to dodge. With a regular size melee weapon, there's enough time to roll away when he starts the wind up. With the Dark Hand, I am just slightly too close that no matter what I do, I am taking guaranteed chip damage. The damage from this combo ranges from requiring an Estus or two to a small blip on my health bar, but regardless, the awful truth of the fight is this. Manus can whittle me down faster than I can to him, and is all but guaranteed to get consistent hits on me. It is grueling, and honestly pretty humiliating for Karth to have to watch me get my lunch money stolen by Manus. Even when I, with enough practice, eventually get to the next phase, the dark magic poses even more of an issue. Like Artorias, it takes hours to get past my impatience. I need to play this slow and calm, exactly the opposite of how I'm used to. Eventually, I wear him down, and the father of the fake and bad abyss goes down. 2 left. It's time for the dragon, my least played and least won fight in the whole game. Let's get to it. Hawkeye proves how much better he is at Hanzo than I am, and I make my way into the valley. Wait. No, wait a minute, no. This is wrong. This is easy. Kalameet, for some reason, just completely folds against my build. Unlike Artorias and Manus, he's easy to hit, doesn't have any ultra punishing attacks directed at my build, and has a lot of very slow recoveries. I take some damage and die once, but mainly due to my inexperience with the fight, not the challenge. The Black Dragon, thoroughly curb stomped, goes down, and then there was only one left. I say goodbye to Goff, who gives me Gwyn's blessing before I depart to the abyss for the last time. Karth gently seduces me one last time before I make my way into the kiln. I thoroughly embarrass the knights, finally making use of the Dark Hand's arguably most useful aspect before heading into Gwyn. It takes a little practice and a little being slapped around by Joshua Graham, but eventually I learn how to parry Gwyn, and after I trap him in a loop, the old, sad, scared king finally falls. I leave the kiln behind and head towards the closest thing to a good ending this game has. Wow, okay, that sucked. I love the Dark Hand. I love the Dark Wraith aesthetic, but oh my god, it is not practical. The damage isn't even the worst part. The range made it so annoyingly frustrating. It might just be my inexperience with fist weapons, as the only game I've ever used them in was Elden Ring and Dark Souls 3, but wow, it felt so clunky and short with some bosses. I looked cool as hell dying 100 times though, and that's all I really care about. Anyways, before we part ways for another 8 months, I'll go over the best and worst parts of this run. The worst was pretty easily Manus. It isn't even really the fight, but how slow it was. I did so little damage that being focused for almost 20 minutes at a time was boring and tiring. The Hydra and Nido no-clipping are also honourable mentions. The best was probably both beating up every single ULTRAKILL resident and clapping ONS. Both gave me a ton of trouble the last few tries, so it was positively fucking brilliant to serve them back their quick attacks on a platter. Anyways, that's all for this video. I don't get an enormous amount of views or subscribers, but I read every single comment obsessively, and I really do appreciate the support on my cute and attractive little videos. Let me know if you have any awful run ideas, music suggestions, or if you just want to share Karth's interests with me. Have a good one.